Sorry, I like the video, but had to dislike because you aren't a Nichijou fan. Oh no. Bart Simpson, my man, I'm so sorry for what I'm about to do. No piece of media can truly be for everyone, and it's foolish to think that one can. Maybe some have problems with the characters, maybe the gameplay, or maybe they dislike it for some completely irrational reason. I don't know, people are weird. But every now and again, you come across something that grinds your entire universe to a halt. Because on one hand, it contains so many enjoyable elements that you genuinely appreciate, but on the other, you didn't enjoy this piece of media like at all. This has only happened to me twice. The first was with Fallout New Vegas, which went on to become one of my favorite games of all time, and the second is Nichijou. Unlike New Vegas, I haven't completely made up my mind on Keiichi Arari's surreal slice of life comedy. I'll get this out of the way right off the bat. Nichijou is a great show. The purpose of this video is to try to come to an understanding of why my dumb boy poo-poo brain refuses to have a good time while watching it. That's the game plan, and before you jump in line begging to take part in this journey, understand that I'm going to be spoiling the series throughout. Alright, let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. I went into Nichijou the same way I did with every Kyoto Animation show. I told my brother to put it on because it's a KyoAni show, we're going to have a good time while watching it. But after the second or third episode ended, we both looked at each other and realized that we did not like what we just saw.
What the hell is this?
The biggest problem I had was with the humor. As for the reason, there are quite a few. The first is through no fault of the show itself. A decent chunk of Nichijou's humor is based around the culture of Japan and the Japanese language. You've got the Go Soccer Club, which combines a sport I recognize with a game I've only ever heard the name of. In episode 7, Mio gives Yuko a gift and tells her it was just something she had lying around the house. Yuko opens it and finds this... I don't know what this is. In episode 10, Yoshino puts what I believe is a shogi piece on top of Mio's desserts, replacing whatever delectable treat was already up there. It starts with a night piece on her Mont Blanc, but then escalates to a king piece on her strawberry shortcake. The fact that the piece upgraded to a king because it was on a cake that Mio deliberately hid is pretty good, but I had to look this up because I can't read the pieces as is. Also, apparently Sakamoto speaks in a different dialect than anyone else in the show. So not only do I not understand the jokes I notice, but I completely miss out on several others that I had no business recognizing. These are the kind of jokes that lead to a blank stare on the outside, but on the inside, your brain is racing at 600 miles per hour trying to make heads or tails of what you just saw. Was that the joke? Did I miss something? Is it just bad? Do I not understand? It's probably that last one, but regardless, I can't say that any of these scenes contributed to my enjoyment of the show. Another thing that fell flat for me was all the Manzai comedy. The good old dumb person does something dumb, then the straight man calls them out on it routine. If you saw the Lucky Star video, you know that I don't really care for it. That checks off another box. Let's see what's next. Okay, what the fuck? I was on such a nice roll with the negativity, but you know, Nichijou has a lot of great moments. They aren't the kind of jokes that get me to laugh out loud per se, but whenever I see them, I think to myself, that was really good. You've got this scene in episode 6 where the principal gets locked in a heated battle with a deer. My favorite part is the way Yuko watches all of this go down while frantically contemplating whether or not she should run into her classroom and tell everyone what's going on. Then when the principal suplexes the deer, causing his toupee to fall off, Yuko bursts into the classroom to fill everyone in, as if that was the big revelation from this scene. This recurring bit with Takasaki trying to get together with Izumi is awesome. The guy will go through this whole song and dance in his head, creating scenarios for what he's going to say, and then when he finally opens his mouth, the most direct thing he could have said comes out. My favorite one by far is when he tries to ask her little brother if she has a boyfriend or not.
Oi, Sakurai.
はい。
今付き合っている彼氏はいるんですか?
No future!
There's the scene where the testing period ends and everybody starts over-celebrating to an extreme. People are hugging each other, there's confetti on the floor, these two announce that they're getting married. Also, the voice acting in this show is absolutely phenomenal. Nichijou required them to get loud and insane, and they delivered on every front with these amazingly energetic performances. But you know, these scenes only took up so much of the runtime, so I was still pretty disillusioned with the show. Because of this, I ended up putting it on pause for some time. About a year passes. Many things have changed in the land that I used to call home. It feels as though the depths of hell rose to the surface and laid waste to everything I held dear. I sat there, perched on the ashes of my fallen friends, gazing out into the distance, wondering how things got to be this way. As I contemplate the downfall of man, a serpent slithers its way up my back and rests on my shoulder. It seems like my time's finally come. I brace myself as the demon in disguise inches closer and closer to my face, but he catches me off guard by delivering not an attack, but a whisper. Hey, you should buy the Nichijou manga. I lost $80 that day, but when all seemed lost, I turned to my left and saw Patreon with a fucking big bag of money for me. It's okay, moving on. And that's how I ended up with this thing. I bought it because I love KyoAni and this is a really cool collectible, but I wanted to get my money's worth out of it too, so I read all 10 volumes over the course of a week or two. And honestly, I don't really know what I was expecting. The Nichijou anime is a very faithful adaptation of the source material with a handful of small changes. If anything, I probably enjoyed this less than the anime because of the lack of voice acting. I can only blame myself because no matter what voice I gave these characters in my head, it was always inferior to the voices of these exceptionally talented people. But all in all, I'm very glad that I read this because it helped me notice something that I absolutely adore about Nichijou. See, the most interesting part about this series for me is the world. This bizarre universe that resembles ours, yet has 8-year-old professors creating sentient robots and talking cats, classrooms whose names are taken from the end of the alphabet, tissue boxes that reveal fortunes when you try to use them. There are so many creative and intriguing ideas in here. Every inch of each panel or frame has been bathed in Keiichi's distinct style and charming personality. I really got to appreciate this while reading the manga, because a manga is about as close to an author's unfiltered artistic vision as it gets. And as if my opinion on this series was some big messed up puzzle, learning this helped me understand a little more about why I didn't enjoy Nichijou very much. See, when I think about this franchise, I tend to envision the world as a whole and how well realized it is, but that doesn't leave a whole lot of space for the characters. For me, when it comes to media, characters are king. If I don't love your characters, I'm probably not going to love your show. In Nichijou's case, I found attaching myself to any of the characters difficult because it felt like they were built solely to dispense jokes. I can see Keiichi thinking to himself that he has a lot of joke ideas for a robot, so he created a robot character, and he probably wanted to make fun of the tsundere trope, so he made a tsundere character, and so on. This explains why I was able to enjoy Lucky Star so much even though the comedy fell flat for me, and why Nichijou still failed after I lost interest in its humor. I latched on to Lucky Star's characters because they felt like real people. The characters in Nichijou are so over the top that it was difficult to become personally invested in them. Not to suggest that this is at all what the series is going for, but sometimes you try to find alternative ways to enjoy a piece of media when it fails its main goal for you. Anyways, with the manga read, all that was left was to go back and finish the anime, and as surprised as I am to say this, I'm so glad that I did. First off, there's a scene towards the end of the show that made me laugh out loud. Hell yeah. Alright, so Mio has a crush on Sasahara, the guy with the butler and the pet goat. Yuko saw Nano drop her books in front of him, and when he picked them up for her, she ran back to the classroom to tell Mio what happened. Mio pretends to be disinterested, but still asks for Yuko to tell the entire story. When she realizes that it was a harmless interaction, she starts slapping her on the shoulder with relief and calling her stupid for ever making her worry. These insults break her, the switch is flipped, and Yuko says this.
つうかナノちゃんと笹原先輩チューしてたんですけど
This made me lose it. It's a cold, calculated precision strike that turns Mio's soul to dust, yet it's also the most flimsy thing she could have said to rile her up because Nana would never fucking do that. But that excellent bit aside, I'd like to end things off with episode 25, because it has a scene that's so good that I believe it made my entire journey through this franchise worth it. I believe it's an anime exclusive because I skimmed back through the manga and couldn't find it anywhere, but please correct me if I'm wrong. It certainly feels like it originated from the anime, given how it's a perfect marriage between Keiichi's style and KyoAni's emotionally meaningful storytelling. We begin with Mio noticing that Gundere is walking arm in arm charm with Sasahara. And of course, given how she reacted from the scene I just described, this is a world-ending event. Nano and Yuko try to cheer her up as she turns away from her classroom and walks off. And in her desperation, Yuko says life is just like baseball. You never know what's going to happen. And you know what? It works. Because at the end of the day, life truly is just like baseball. Nah, I'm just fucking kidding. She jumps out the window and sprints off. In typical Nichijou fashion, hilarity ensues as during Mio's mad dash, she manages to shadow box like a champion in front of a crowd, run in between two oncoming trains, and save a child from drowning in a river. When she finally calms down, she opens her eyes to a policeman telling her that she'll get a commendation for saving the kid, a boxing recruiter scouting her for her amazing performance, and the kid's friend handing her a kite for her efforts. She bursts out laughing because this is exactly as Yuko said. Life is like baseball, and you never know what's going to happen or how it's going to change, so there's always an incentive to keep getting out of bed every morning. Cherry on top, the policeman emphasizes this point by RKOing a thief to close out the scene. Were you expecting that to happen? Didn't think so. Now that's great and all, but KyoAni didn't just leave it there. They had to let everyone know just how wonderful people can be once again. After school, Yuko, Mai, and Nano put up this makeshift lottery and force Mio to spin. She wins, and inside is a voucher for a lifelong friendship, and it's signed by all three of them. You know, maybe it's the fact that I didn't see this coming from Nichijou. Maybe it's the effects of the severe lack of in-person interaction I've had with my friends over the last 2 years. Maybe it's the fact that I'm a sucker for those who can always find some kind of happiness in a situation that feels much more soul-crushing than it actually is, because I love to master that ability myself. But regardless of the reason, this scene really got to me, and I think it represents what I believe Nichijou is all about. It's about taking the mundane and blowing it out to a proportion where even the most trivial everyday task can be laughed at and appreciated. A surrealist comedy that cleverly uses its subversions to do so much more than tickle your funny bone. With that, I think I can finally describe my feelings about Nichijou. I think that the series, it's not funny. Wait, what? Are you just going to forget the slog that you went through to get to this point? Episode 25 isn't the only one in the show. Yeah, I know, but I didn't hate watching the rest of it. Well, you didn't like it either. Yeah, but the beautiful world. Yeah, but the characters. Heartfelt slice of life storytelling. Bits you had no chance of understanding. It's also got such a distinct style. Is that really what matters here? I'm late for soccer practice. What the fuck? Look, nothing can take away from the fact that I wanted to see more after it was over. This comedy show is almost 11 hours long and you only laughed twice. You know what? This video was a wash. Everybody go home. Special thanks to Silent Secondary and the rest of my wonderful patrons.